Where you go to your they do a special soda, beer.
Oh, okay. 6, 7. Okay. We're going to call the June 4th Management Services Committee to order. Do you have the roll? No, read the roll.
Yeah,
How do you want to do it?
That's fine. Barron?
Here.
Alt?
Here.
Bowman? Hasbargen? Johnson? Here. McGinnis? Awful. Here.
Okay. Is there a motion to approve the agenda?
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Okay. Are there any public comments? Yes, ma'am.
You do it. Say something. I'm Paula. I'm from the Village of Loda. As you're probably aware, a couple weeks ago there was an issue with the Democratic Central Committee not being allowed to use this room for our meeting. There was a great deal of discussion at the Policy and Procedure Committee meeting last week, and while Barron's made two remarks I just want to comment on. One is you said it will be on the agenda for today, and it is, and we appreciate that. Awesome. Get right on it. Second of all, one of his comments was it may end up that this room would only be used for official government groups or renters. And just for your consideration, when you folks are discussing this, it's been pointed out to me that you could make an argument that since precinct committeemen can register people to vote, and they are, of course, accountable to their central committees, that the central committees act somewhat in an official governmental way of sorts. I'm just tossing it out for you guys to consider. That's it. Thank you.
While they are able to register to vote, they are technically a private club. So,
Really?
yes.
Okay. Well, thank you.
Yeah. But, thank you for that. And, I don't know, were there any extras of these? If you want to give her one so she can see it too.
Oh, thanks. There you are. Thank you.
Uh-huh.
And that's just a working, or there'll probably be changes made to it. So,
Thanks. All right.
Any other public comments? Okay, then we will open and take action on waste hauling bids. First one is from Republic Services. Okay. For the courthouse and jail, 4-yard container service once a week, $52 per month. 4-yard container service twice a week, $104 per month. For the admin building, 6-yard container service once a week, $78 per month. 6-yard container service twice a week, $154 per month. We have it serviced twice a week right now, right?
Yeah.
And that's what we need, right?
We do.
Okay.
Was that once a month?
They gave it for, they gave two separate bids, one for once and one for twice. We'll pass that around.
I tried.
We could be up or what? We both are ours.
This one is Boom Garden Trash.
What's it called?
Boom Garden Trash Hauling. That's who currently has it. put together, my bid for both are $275 per month. Twice a week, Monday and Fridays. And that is as a 2-year contract.
So what, 2-year contract?
Yeah, that's what he put for the 2-year contract. I think we asked for maybe a couple of different ways of doing it. I do not have that right in front of me, and Amanda is not here. So. Kankakee A&J Disposal. 6-yard container, 1 time per week, $100 per month. 6-yard container 2 times per week, $140 per month. 4-yard container 1 time per week, $70 per month. 4-yard container 2 times a week, $100 per month. Now, do you get the bills, or do they go directly to the...
I get them.
What are we paying now? Do we get a bill per month or per week? Or?
Well, let me back up a little bit. The billing from Moon Garden is sometimes a few months will go by before he'll send one over, and it doesn't always come to me. So sometimes it is directly coming here, because sometimes I get it, sometimes I don't. And I don't know the exact numbers right now.
Okay.
I really don't, without looking back into some billing. But I've brought that up to make a couple calls, and said, well, you aren't going anywhere, I think, so apparently not too anxious to get his check or something. The trash is picked up twice a week, every week.
We need twice a week, right?
Yes.
So the ones that said once a week are...
So basically, it's the second set of numbers that you read on each of them.
Right, that's what we need. So A&J is 140 and 100 per month. Moon Garden is $275 a month. Public is,
104 to 154.
yes. $240, $275,
258.
yeah, so,
A&J?
yeah, I think we've had them before. That was maybe the one before Boom Garden, and as far as I know, they did fine. So,
Well, I'm sure that they have all the correct licensure and everything.
Yeah.
As opposed to maybe,
all of them are licensed and passed the public health department, because when there was a new law that went into effect, I think 2 years ago, and
right.
a couple of them had difficulties passing that inspection the first time. I think I talked to them at the health department, and they said only one of the ones that serviced the county passed the first time. But they all are doing fine now, so I guess it's open for discussion or a motion.
I move that we accept A&J's bid.
Okay. Is there a second?
I'll second.
Any further discussion on it?
Was there, How long is theirs? Was it 2 years or just 1 year? I didn't see that specified on that, but I didn't look that close for that part.
It does not state on here a time frame. So we would have to look at the bid sheet to see exactly what we asked for.
Oh, it's on, look at
Did you find it on?
the one that Boom Garden sent in. That's your letter back, or
No, that was a letter to them.
on the second one though, the second sheet, doesn't it say?
It says 2 years on Baumgarten.
Yeah, he did say 2 years.
He
you're right.
did, but,
Did it not specify on that?
I don't know, I might be reading right past it. You guys want? I don't, he wrote on there 2 years, but
Right,
I'm not seeing,
I think the second sheet was the specifications for the bidding. Didn't ask, so it doesn't matter. But we'd have to do it again next year. That's only for a year.
well,
We weren't specific in that.
well, there's more than just this sheet that went for the packet, I assume. Did you guys have the packet? We didn't. You did not have the packet. And here again, Amanda is not here to ask.
Well, we could just call them and ask them if they would be more specific, or we're going to have to do it again next year.
I'd rather not do it next year, but
Maybe.
they probably assumed whatever was on the bid packet would, I can't remember, the one in the finance department, would she maybe have? I don't know if she'd have access to that or not.
Want me to go see?
If you would, please.
If not,
You didn't see the bid packet, did you?
No, they didn't come to me. I was the contact number on there, I believe, because a couple of them contacted me about the size of containers we need. But as far as seeing them now, it's... You want to make a call real quick? Is there a number on there to find out if it's 2 year, 1 year?
Well, let's see what the bid packet says, if it actually does say anything. If not,
we could ask them if they go 2 years.
exactly. Maybe you could modify your
'Cause
motion to say that if they agree to the 2 years.
Yeah, it seems
We'll
like
just
in the
leave it
past
pending
it was
like
always
that.
a 2 or 3 year contract.
Just ask them, I'll bet they'll go 2 years.
I probably will too.
But one thing we do have to remember is I believe A&J is the one that has it in their contract that they have to be notified so many days ahead of time for the end of their to cancel their contract.
The only thing,
And we ran into that 1 year, and that's why, just as a precaution,
Otherwise it renews.
otherwise it automatically renews. So,
only thing never mind. I wouldn't think there'd be much out on Monday since nobody's here from Friday night till
well, I
Monday
asked,
morning.
Chris would be the one to ask on that.
Sorry, I didn't hear you.
There wouldn't be much on Monday morning if they already picked it up on Friday.
I thought the same thing, but for whatever reason that works because sometimes over the weekends, like the jail and
Oh, okay.
whatnot, that thing will get stuffed. Like if they get a big order in on Friday of food or something in the afternoon, because they pick it up really early in the morning. Like sometimes you're here like 6 a.m., but it seems to be working.
By Friday, they don't get started on it until Saturday.
Right. And sometimes over the weekend,
She said
that thing
no,
will fill up
so
on
maybe
the
Chris
schedule.
could
Okay, I'll
just,
take that, or...
Can Chris just call him?
Otherwise, it looks like...
If
and
Chris
ask them. I'm
wants
sure
to.
there's a more specific document that they're going to want filled out anyway, so
Yeah, do you want to try calling them?
we're going to follow up with them and ask them if they'll do 2 years and
Well, or what exactly, if their bid was for 1 or 2 years or what. If the person that knows is there, that's going to be the next thing.
So we're basically wanting to know if this is just 1 year.
if it's a 1 year or
Or
2
if they
year
would
bid.
do 2 years, that makes it simpler.
Okay. I'm going to the hall. Or we'll look at it.
This one, 80 was used. Is this something, while we're waiting, I guess we'll... Okay, we did these because by law we have to, right? Right. Are you going to be able to explain to us what it is?
Yeah.
Okay. So, I'll be able to explain Johnson Controls too?
I've seen it enough times.
See, there's just a transfer book. Do we want to move on while we're
Yes.
waiting? Okay. Discussion on building efficiencies, which I guess, I don't know how deeply we want to get into that before he comes back. So maybe, do you have the information on that Ameren grant?
I do.
That might be something we can discuss quickly. Do you guys know much about the staffing grant?
Not specifically, no. They have a lot of different programs.
I applied for that last year and didn't get it, merely...
The annual thing that they do.
Yeah, merely because they'll go up to reimbursement of 80 to...
80,000.
Yeah. Well, what they let
Fund
you
an
do
energy
is...
project manager, it says.
Oh, okay.
Right. But they want so much specific information. I applied for a grant for lighting, and they said that I didn't have enough, even though the electrical person that I was talking to called them as well. They said they wanted more concrete. Well, since there'd never been service to the area that was in question, we got tossed.
Gotcha.
But I really think it's worthwhile, and it doesn't do any, I mean, it's not hard to apply for the grant itself. If you get it, great. If you don't, okay, but it would be great to go along with anything that we might be considering
Yeah, and
here.
I think this would probably be good supporting
Documentation.
documentation.
Yeah, we would fill out that grant paperwork for you. So give them whatever information they needed to make sure you get it. We have contacts at Ameren, so we work directly with them.
Yeah,
And then,
and then you go
you
from
know,
there.
I think from what you were saying last year, we might be able to use some money to partially fund Chris. If we
Or
appoint him as our...
if you get somebody that's going to, I mean, you could probably use part of that as some of the money that, in a 50-50 exchange, I think that you can use part of that money for that as well. So, it's a great program.
Yeah, absolutely. No, they have a lot of good stuff going on right now, so there's...
Exactly, a lot of incentives.
Yeah, we usually see $60,000 to $80,000 in incentives for, I don't know what we carried on the financials we put together for this one, but I think it was somewhere in that range. And that wasn't even including that grant.
How long is going through something like that going to take?
I mean, it depends on how much you, if you read each page, it's going to take a little time. I mean, there's different sections, and that's kind of how we structure the proposal submittal, is so you can jump to certain sections. So obviously qualifications, approach is important, especially with the two different companies. We're very different as far as our approaches, so I think that's an important thing to look at.
Is it going... Okay. Well, I hate jumping around, but while we're waiting, we have some people here that would like to leave. So this is a proposed diagram for the veterans. So let's pass that around. Now, with this, is there gonna be some, it's kind of just a general total, does that include flooring that might be necessary?
Yes, and like I said before, if anything goes, I mean, we're willing to pull this money out of our budget. I have money in the budget. If it goes over, we're more than willing to get it done and compensate for it. We looked at it extensively. There would be no electrical that needs to be moved, nothing like that, no venting, none of that sort. That would give you, we go 15 foot off the front of the door, put a wall up, you know, the steel studs, you know, whole kit and caboodle. The labor is going to be donated by licensed contractors. All we're doing is paying for materials, and that's it. I mean, these are gentlemen that I have served. They are willing to donate their time because they feel that I've done an excellent job for them. You know, those sorts of things. We really would like this space. We want to be conducive to what the county and us are working together. We would rather work together than work apart.
Right.
You know, this has been going on 7 months. You know, if push comes to shove, you know, our next step is to what, John?
There's a building outside, and you guys will pay the rent for it, because that's the law. You check it out.
The law states we have to provide space. We are providing space. If you choose not to use that space, I'm not sure how the law
Oh,
covers.
come on,
No.
that ain't space.
And we don't even want to get into that because we're hoping to approve this today.
Yep, and
I mean,
you know,
that's
He's
what...
correct. He is correct.
Okay.
We
well,
have to provide space, and if we cannot provide space from inside this building, then we are obligated to provide space outside this building and absorb the cost for that.
so-
He is correct.
Space on telephone.
Yep.
So, but anyway, we're here to get it approved. You know,
and that's what we're trying to do. It's been a long time. We've asked for it. We've been decent, you know, and I know government things don't transpire overnight, but I'm outgrowing the space, plain and simple. I could go full-time today and have the work supported all day long. That's, you know, we're trying to make this a full-time, and, you know, as it sits right now, I ran the numbers about 6 weeks ago. I've had new claims come in. We're bringing at like $1.2 million in every year from the claims out of my office, working 16 hours a week. I am not doing justice to the people that I am serving just in that capacity. It could go full-time, and that's what we're asking to do that once we get this settled. We're still on hold. And that's where it sits. We would appreciate an approval to send this to county board. Like I said, there's no money coming out of the
Right.
county's pocket. It's coming out of my budget, which technically does come out of the county's pocket. But this is stuff that's been approved. I have money sitting there. It needs to be spent. We're willing to do it. We're willing to work with you guys. That 15-foot, it's about a 15-foot by 15-foot space. You can put a conference center, or not a conference center, so to speak, but a conference table in there. You can do your FOP, you know, if there's a special meeting that needs to be held, then we're not violating privacy or HIPAA laws or anything like that. There could be a small waiting space for my guys out there, or we can move them in past that hallway, because I believe that there's enough space, or not the hallway, but past the wall. I believe that there's enough space in there with a desk to support 5 or 6 or 10 vets at the same time.
and I would say whenever it's not being used as a conference room, it could be used as a waiting room.
Yep. As long as there's no privacy problems on either side. I mean, I know FOP has some sort of privacy regulation. The worst case scenario is my guys go in there past it and sit and wait in that outside office.
So,
I make the motion that we go ahead with this. Let's get it done.
with the plan diagram.
The plan diagram, everything that they've talked about, it doesn't really matter to me that they're bringing in 1.2 million, that's great, but you know what, it's a service that we need to provide for the veterans, and I've said that from day one when you brought it up, let's just do this.
I mean, we are an underserved community. I have guys calling me from Vermilion County because there's no service officers down there. Have I refused them? In certain aspects I have to, but in other aspects, because of the credentials I hold, you know, I am able to serve those guys if they're able to drive, you know, get here. I will not turn any veteran down.
So basically, anybody from an area that's not served can come here and...
Yep, except for one issue. If they're seeking financial assistance, I cannot grant them financial assistance because of the way the state statute is set up. It's coming out of the county coffer. I cannot financially assist. But if they're needing service, you know, or if they're calling me for questions, I am more than happy to take care of them. Ford County does not have a VAC as well, and between us and Kankakee County, we're splitting the difference between the two. There's guys that are going without their headstones. There's guys that are sick that are not able to get their service connection. They're living hand to mouth. You know, those sorts of things. And with the larger office space, we're going to be able to provide more things for more vets. You know, and I would say 99.9% of my guys, and I say guys as a general term, are Iroquois County residents. And they need help. I mean, I treat my guys like I treat anybody else. One day, that's going to be my family sitting on the other side of that desk seeking help for myself or my husband. And that's it in a nutshell.
Right.
You know,
We've got a motion. Is there a second? Charlie? Even though there's not money spent, we'll do a roll call.
Okay, Alt,
Yes.
Johnson,
Yes.
Awful, yes, and Barron.
Yes. Okay.
thank you.
Now, you can go back to doing whatever you were doing.
Yes, it's, I have shuffling a stack from one side of my desk to the next one. So thank you so much. I greatly appreciate it. Thank you, God.
Okay, what did you find out, Chris?
So he's very flexible and would be willing to do a 2-year contract, but it's at that price.
That price, 2 years per month?
Yes. He said he would do a 2-year.
Okay.
Now, does this start in July? Does this go into effect? When does this start?
I believe it's July 15th or
It
16th.
says on the one that's from Boomgard.
Okay, good, because he asked me and I said July and I hoped I was right.
Yeah, that's why we need to get it taken care of today so everybody could get everything lined up.
Okay.
Is that top letter, the termination?
Terminate coverage proposal, that's end of contract date is all it says. But I believe, if I remember right, it was either June 15th, right in that time period. It was the middle of the month.
Okay.
And we'll make sure we have all that and notify them if they receive the bid.
So does my motion stay the same, or do we change it?
What was the motion?
I just have that she was moving to accept the A&J bid.
We didn't say anything about it.
Why don't you put for 2 years?
For 2 years.
And then you still want a second?
Yeah, that's fine.
Okay. Any further discussion? Then we'll go ahead and take the roll.
Johnson,
Yes.
Awful, yes, Barron,
Yes.
and Alt.
Yes.
Okay. Discussion on you guys.
Well, I guess I'll start, was there any specific questions that had come out of, I know you guys have had a lot of things going back and forth with different companies, and there's specific questions about this process that we went through here, which is part of the legislation, and that's why we were required to do that. And I think Lyle's thought process was that you were going to have to make a decision on which company you want to work with anyways. might as well do it in a formal way so that you don't have to do it twice.
Yeah, if we hadn't gone through this process and picked one of the two, we'd have still had to go through this process and then pick again, you know.
So those are qualification packages from each company.
Is it going to be best to pass them around? You guys can
Yeah,
go
I
through
think there's enough
yours.
copies. There should be enough copies for everyone to have one from each
You can
company.
go through yours and then we can maybe look at.
So those will just be qualifications, insurance information, all the stuff that you'd really want to gather is all right there for you to take a look at. The point is to choose a company that you want to continue having these
Do you
discussions
want
with.
one to go through it with us, or?
I don't know if there's anything specific I want to jump into, but I think the biggest thing, you have this all right before you leave. So one of the reasons we actually put a qualification in the, it's Appendix 1, it's under qualifications. We put in there as a minimum requirement that all the companies that offer up their service for this have what's called a 2017 IDIQ Department of Energy contract. And the purpose of that, it's not a state requirement, but we put it in there because these are thick books and there's a lot to read through. If you have that contract, then it basically means you've been vetted by the federal government, by the Department of Energy, and are approved to do performance contracts that average $25 million up to 25-year contracts. So those are obviously a lot larger than this, what you guys will be looking at, but I just wanted to show that that's a capability that we have, but we are a much smaller company, which provides a lot of flexibility for you guys, and I think that's important, whereas you guys aren't really sure what direction you want to go in, and it gives you a lot more options working with a smaller company like SmartWatt that can provide that flexibility from a cost standpoint, because we don't have overhead and margin requirements of a larger company. So just from a cost standpoint, we're going to be a lot less, which is going to allow you to do a lot more. And then from just the size of our company, we're willing to take on smaller projects. So we're not going to require that it be this large, huge project. If you wanted to phase it or want to do something that was a little more comfortable for you guys, we're happy to work with you on that. And then we have a lot of expertise in these projects. So I think the other biggest thing is we don't just do performance contracts with government entities. We do them with private entities like Amazon, Prologis, who's like a large commercial leasing company. And I think that's important because those projects are a lot more strict financially, they're a lot more difficult from a project management standpoint. So we take that mentality from those very complex projects and we maintain that mentality while working with you guys, which makes the project go a lot faster, goes a lot smoother. And I think we work well with Chris, and I think that it's a good relationship that we'd like to continue with you guys. But other than that, there's just a lot of qualifications in here. We work primarily with county government, so we have that expertise. Working in county jails is a lot different than working in a school or working in a hospital. So we have that expertise that is required to work in a jail facility. We've worked in state prisons, federal facilities. So other than that, I think the biggest thing here was to just hopefully partner up with you guys and then continue the conversation and see if we can put our heads together and choose a project that is going to be best for you guys from a financial standpoint and from just a longevity, because you do have some equipment problems. Chris is doing a good job, but he's only one man, so I think this could help tighten some of that stuff up for him and allow him to be as effective as possible for you guys.
Okay, I think we've discussed the fact that, okay, we have the list of projects. At the full board meeting, it was pretty much, seemed like the general consensus was we weren't going to want to do them all at once. We would budget for them over time, but that we might have someone to manage the project.
Yep.
Does that work with the way you guys do things? Or?
Yeah, I mean, we'll work with you guys on however you want to do it, however you want to break it out. And I think the big thing in the board meeting was not taking on debt. And I completely understand that, and so that would leave you guys with one option if you don't want to pay everything up front, and that's the tax exempt lease, which is kind of set up like a lease purchase agreement. So that is an option for you. It's not considered debt, but that's something that sometimes you can choose a number that you're comfortable with paying over a certain amount of years out of pocket, and then the rest can be financed with this this mechanism. So that's not something we have to decide today, but that's an option for you guys if you did want to get everything done within a 1 or 2 year period instead of making it a 5 or 6 year phased out project. But yes, we're happy to work with you guys and present, during our investment grade audit, we present all these options to you, and then you guys get to decide what's best for you. So you'll have all those laid out in front of you, and you'll know which direction you want to go in by that point.
I guess I believe at this point, we're at the stage of picking a company and getting the investment grade audit, correct?
Correct. So what I'll do is, if Smart Light is chosen, I'll come back in and go over that investment grade audit agreement with you, explain some of the things that we're going to do in that, and if you guys execute on that, then we'll start that process of walking through the buildings, putting out our instrumentation, doing everything.
Anybody else have any questions for them?
I'm looking at your letter from the Department of Energy. That was dated for the year 2014. Is that...
It's a one-time thing that we...
Okay, because it just says your firm's qualification is for the 2014 calendar year.
maybe we need to get an updated letter in there.
Be thinking so.
We're definitely listed on there. I think everyone is. It's
okay, well that throws a red flag for me when I see 4 years ago that you were... Okay, but it doesn't say that. Yeah. Okay.
Anybody have any other questions? Anything else you guys want to throw out there? Other than you're the best and...
Well, I think we would be a good partnership with you guys because we are a smaller company and we're going to be flexible and work with you well. We have very good expertise, and that's one thing that we do bring to the table is we have energy engineers, lighting engineers, solar engineers, so we have all those options. We did look at solar for you guys, and that's something that we can discuss further as well for individual buildings, not solar farms.
All right, but if I remember right, you said it was economically not necessarily the best thing.
And that's the thing is we weren't going to put a bunch of stuff in there that we didn't think you guys would want to do. We wanted to give you the best, best project where you're going to get the most bang for your buck. But that's something that the legislation is still being finalized. So when it does get finalized, it might be back on the table if there's some different incentives. And different incentives have come out since we've provided that report. So it is going in the right direction. So that could be, at least on top of this building, I think it's a good application for solar.
Okay. Well, I guess that would be part of the energy audit, right?
Correct.
If we go forward with the audit, I'm not asking exactly, but time-wise, looking at weeks, a month, would it be able to be done? Say we decide, or they decide the big meeting to, let's go ahead and do this, let's go Smart Lot, let's go forward with the audit. Would that be something that you think could be prepared by the next meeting, the next month, or is this a multi-month?
It's typically a 2 to 3 month process.
Okay. That's sort of what
There's instrumentation that we put out in the buildings that has to be in the buildings for at least 2 weeks and things like that. So there's different steps to the process that we have to go through.
Gotcha. Yeah, I sort of anticipate being.
And we have to walk contractors through. We have to get a list of local subcontractors that we want to use for the project, get them in the building so they can take a look, because we're going to come back with firm fixed pricing in that, so it's not an estimate, right? It's actual, and it's all guaranteed by us, and that's the biggest thing, and that's why it takes so long, is because we have to guarantee every single thing that's in there, equipment performance, and guarantee the savings that you guys are going to get, because we're going to come back, measure and verify a year later, 2 years later, and if that savings isn't what we said it was going to be, that's when we have to reimburse the difference. And that's the biggest part of these projects is it's performance-based. So we have to do our job. We're held accountable for that. We're not just going to come in and install stuff and then leave and hope that it works for you guys. We have to make sure it works for you. And if it doesn't, we have to own up to it. And that's the biggest thing that protects you guys and protects the taxpayer dollars that are used for these projects.
So glad to hear that you're once again talking about local contractors, but let me just ask, I know you're all over the place with what you do. Are your standards so high, and this is going to sound weird when I say it, but are your requirements going to be so high that our local contractors won't be able to compete in that market, or you see what I'm saying?
If they have a background where they haven't had any issues, like bad business bureau, stuff like that,
right,
and they have the capabilities to do the project, then they're absolutely going to be considered for it. And then it comes down to price. So we want you guys to get the best value from a price standpoint too. So we got to make sure the project's going to work for you.
right.
But yeah, absolutely. I mean, it can't be a one-man shop, but if they have the capabilities to do all the lighting, then they'll definitely be considered for it. And our process is not over strict that it's going to disqualify everyone based in this county.
And I realize that we have to consider price all the time, but we also have to consider the fact that our local people are the ones that are still going to be here when you guys step out of the picture. So, I mean, I'm a diehard about the fact that I think it needs to go to our local people before anybody else.
Absolutely.
So.
And that's the great thing about these programs and this process is that there's a lot more flexibility on subcontractors. They don't have to be the least expensive. You guys will have that input, and if it makes sense to use the guy that's a little bit more expensive because he's local, then that's what we do.
Okay, perfect.
Now, on, like the chiller, if we do that as a project, Chris has been calling around to get people to work on the one we have, and hasn't had a lot of success. Is that going to be taken into account as to who we might be able to get to work on something rather than just the price of, I mean, that's, if we have a piece of equipment that nobody locally is going to work on, that doesn't do us any good either.
At the end of the day, since we are guaranteeing everything, we're going to make sure that they're going to do a good job for you guys. The good thing is that we have a lot of in-house expertise in mechanical like Ray. Ray could go fix it himself, but I'm not going to make him do that. But he'll oversee the project. Our project directors will oversee the project and make sure it gets done right for you guys. And we'll work with Chris directly. If there are contractors that aren't qualified in his mind, then we won't consider.
Well, it's just because of what the equipment is, they basically aren't even returning the call.
Right. And new install is going to be, that's going to be different animal altogether.
The other thing is, you wouldn't necessarily put in what's there.
Right.
That can be taken into consideration. If that's a real issue for you locally, then maybe it's time to look at some other way of doing something similar. Something local. Have somebody come out of Willowbrook every time. Sure. It's a long delay. And it's costly.
Okay.
Yeah, so we stay away from proprietary. We don't want any equipment that can only be serviced by certain people, service contracts. We're not going to want you guys to get involved in that, especially if Chris has the expertise to kind of maintain that stuff himself.
Okay. Well, I guess we'll know one way or another at the board meeting what they want to do. If we're going to do this, I guess we need to get, it says June 28th deadline, so we need to have it applied for. Is that something you could do for us? Or would you rather hand it off to whoever we choose?
Well, I think that they would have more access to all the information readily.
Okay.
I mean, because it's not that it's in-depth, but they're going to want to know what the scope of your project is, and they're going to want details on the scope of that project, so.
Okay. So once we decide who we're going with, then we can
Right.
work with whoever that is to get this thing applied for. And if we can get $80,000, Chris would take the pay raise. And you said something like that could be used to offset some of your engineering or something?
Yeah, there's different, Ameren has a lot of different programs. They'll actually pay for a portion of the investment grade audit contract that we're going to enter into. And they have all kinds of lighting incentives and different small business direct install, which you guys I think one of your buildings qualifies for that, which is just a different incentive program that they have. So there's a lot of different things that we will get access to as part of this. Don't leave any money out there.
All right, well, I guess we'll continue discussion on who we want to go with.
Sounds great. Thanks. Appreciate it.
All right.
Thanks, guys.
Thanks for the time again.
We'll see you soon.
What is that sheet that you were just talking about?
Oh, that's the
Sherry
grant.
brought it. It's for a grant for energy efficiency manager, which it's my understanding that you could be appointed to that position, and then we could maybe use some of that money to pay some of your salary.
Well, not pay some of his salary. That would be a new, the way the grant was presented to me, that would be an additional, so it would be additional. However, if they send somebody down that works closely with Chris, that would take care of their portion of a salary, or if somebody was hired for strictly just to go and take care of light bulbs, or, you know, when we had talked about doing that, that is something that could cover.
So, yeah,
It has a lot of possibilities with it.
Yeah.
That's,
if they give us the money, we'll find a way to spend it.
I'm sure. Never have
Never
a
been a
problem there.
problem in the past.
Yeah. I guess there's a lot of information here. I don't know, I mean, we've heard from both companies. Chris, do you have a preference of working with one over the other? And if you don't, that's fine. It's just if you do, we want to take that into consideration.
I have to be careful with what I say here and how.
If you don't want to say anything, then that's fine.
Yeah, I don't think it's time.
Okay.
Maybe a later date. But they both seem very qualified and very Johnson Controls. But yeah, I'll put together some stuff and I'll.
Well, I guess we need to kind of send a recommendation to the full board as to who we want to work with.
how come Johnson Controls didn't come today?
I do not know.
Do you know?
No.
Did they know?
Oh yeah,
They
Mr. Myers dropped those off on Friday, and I spoke with them for a little bit out here, and that was it.
maybe there was a scheduling conflict with them. We
See,
don't-
Johnson Controls really impresses me, and they impress me with the way they handle money, and I mean, they're very, very detail oriented and everything else, but I'm also on the side of maybe they're so large and so detail oriented that they're not going to recognize, I mean, we're pretty small in the big spectrum, our needs. These guys have been very down to earth and hospitable and...
Big isn't always better.
Exactly. But then it's like little things like that letter. Those kinds of things concern me, you know. But when you get down to a contract, then it's all spelled out. So
Right.
I guess either way we're covered that way as long as we look things over very, very carefully. So I guess in my opinion I would go with Smartwatch, or Smartwatt, excuse me, just for the fact that they have showed up every time and, you know, he's been very detailed and everything. Not discrediting Johnson Controls. I think that they're, I mean, look at this. This
Right.
is like everything.
Right.
But that's my 2 cents.
Anybody else have anything? Would you like to put that in the form of a motion?
I'll put it in the form of a motion, yeah. I think that Smartwatt has...
To use
I'll
those
second
as our efficiency project management company
I'll
or
second
whatever.
it. Are we ready for a roll?
Yes, please.
Okay. Otto? Yes. Barron?
Yes.
Alt?
Yes.
Johnson?
Yes.
Okay. All right. Does anybody have anything else on the building efficiencies? Okay. Maintenance supervisor report.
Well, I have this, I passed one of these around last year as well, about the same time. It's from Langlois Roofing. Every year they inspect the roofs for the courthouse and the jail, because they put both of them in. This is for some small repairs that they had to do on the jail roof. It's over 20 years old, and he brought up the fact that here in the next maybe 3 to 5 years, it's definitely something we want to think about getting on the docket to have replaced. It's an old EPDM rubber roof. There have, in the past, been sections of it. There's one section over a corner, like maybe a quarter of the whole roof. He's guessing, just by looking at it, it was maybe 7, 8 years ago it got replaced. I don't know what happened up there, but it's definitely something that in the future we need to look at. Keep, said 3 to 5 years possibly. And it looks like it. I mean, it's an older roof. I don't know what route we would go as far as putting a new one on, but that's something to discuss at a later date.
Is that for this building, did you say?
No.
No, that's for the courthouse.
Oh.
This roof is only, what, 3 years old? Maybe?
Something like that. This roof and the jail roof were both put on the same year.
About 4 years ago.
So those, hopefully I don't have to worry about these for years and years, but...
Did Langlois do this?
Yes.
I mean, they put this, the roof in
Oh,
question on?
no.
Okay.
I forget who did it. He had a guess, but he said it wasn't him. Yeah, I can't tell you who that was at the time. The gentleman that came down to inspect this.
Okay.
I have no record in my office of any old roofing stuff over there or not, so I'm not sure. You say you'd be glad to bid it though. No, not right now.
Well,
Some other stuff that got inspected this month are the elevators for the jail and the courthouse. Got inspected. That's like every 3 months. Otis comes with a service contract for that. And the boilers in this building are due to be inspected actually this coming Friday. This Friday to recertify those. The parking lot is getting underway over at the courthouse. They are supposed to start on Thursday. Wednesday there's a grand jury over there. It's going to be really crowded. But Thursday and Friday, I was told last week they're going to try and get in there and knock out a whole bunch of it. They've already done some curb work, some smaller patches, but they're going to get with that. That's a lot sooner than I thought. It was not just last month that was opened up the bid for.
I think so.
And now they're already getting at it. That was really quick, I thought. The chiller over there had a couple of hiccups this past month. There's 2 fan motors that had some issues, and one of them got swapped out, and there's another one that's in the process of getting swapped out. There's always something with that chiller over there as far as it's old. It's 22 years old. The expanded steel project I told you all about in the jail, putting up sheets of expanded steel, welding it up, that got finished. That project is done. Other than that, guys, just a bunch of routine maintenance stuff, some leaks in the jail. I had to order some parts for that. There's some lights in the courtroom that the fixtures need swapped out. I'll be driving my truck this week because the county truck, the fuel pump's out in it. So you see me driving around in my truck, I am working. I'm not just out driving around. But I need to get that into somebody to have fixed because I'm not going to put a new fuel pump in that truck. So, other than that, if you have any questions for me.
I do.
Yes?
Do you know, or can you find out, speaking from personal experience, if you can find out who actually the membrane for that roof was made by? If it has not lived out its warranty expectancy, they'll come back and they're required to offer compensation for what's already been fixed on it or what's deteriorating on it.
Okay.
So if you could find that out, and I don't know if that means going back to find out who actually the bill was paid to, or I don't know. I'm just throwing it out there, but I know that the membrane usually is guaranteed for at least 20, possibly 30 years.
Okay.
So they should be able to do a reimbursement for that if we get after them.
I know what we ran into with this one, because it blew off and it was supposed to be under warranty, was they came and did basically stopgap things to run the warranty out.
Yeah.
Even if they stopgap some of those other spots
Well,
though
yeah.
that look a little rough, that might buy you a couple more years
I'll
on it,
definitely
so
look into that.
can't
Absolutely.
hurt.
Actually, I'm pretty sure the manufacturer is right up there on every piece
Oh,
of it. It's
perfect.
still, if there are some areas that's still legible, you can read it, so I'll go up there and take a look, you know.
Take a picture of it, maybe you can Google it or something. And
Sure. And I need to ask around, find out exactly who did that roof as well, because to my knowledge, I've been through, because it's been on there a long time.
I mean, if Anita was here, she might be able to bring it up or something, but
And, we did talk about bidding and, you know, cost, whatnot. He said the biggest factor, and you guys probably know this, is you don't know until you tear that off.
What's
Underneath, said it might, you don't know what you're gonna uncover.
Yeah.
Sort of tear off your own roof on your house, you know, something like that. So, as far as how they bid it, I don't know that. Do they give you a spectrum of costs there? You know, instead of, it's gonna cost X amount of dollars, it's kind of confusing to me.
Well,
as far as-
Langlohr does it two ways. They'll give you just a repair, and then they'll give you an estimated extra, and then it's usually not to exceed,
Right, okay.
which gets a little intense sometimes.
well, and I think when they actually got to the bidding process, when we did these, they actually did a little bit more investigating and kind of pulling things up and then patching it back just so they knew what was under there. So hopefully, you know, but yeah, anything we do would have to have not to exceed because that's
Right.
the only way we can budget it. Anything else? Any other questions for him? Okay. Still got time to make your thing? Okay. Update on office space, we covered part of that already. Elevator lift, Charlie, what kind of, did you come up with anything, or, I don't see anybody.
Well, apparently it's not here.
Yeah.
He was supposed to be here, I thought, today. A guy, they have two offices, one in Antioch and the other in the Peoria area. Might as well spell this because I sure as heck can't say it. G-A-R-A-V-E-N-T-A, Lift Company. I've found out they do mainly a lot of church second floor lifts requirements today. But he told me on the phone that they do other kind of instruction too. It wouldn't have to be an elevator, it could be a bullet thing or something. And I figured I'd like to have him take a look at the place and see if he could develop it, and suggested he be here at our meeting. And I asked Chris if he'd be around, and maybe the rest of us should take
Just to give you,
get acquainted, ideas list type.
with trying to find space in the building, there's a lot of places that have, on this level, that are storage. Well, there's a upper level that's also storage, and if we have a way to get stuff up there more efficiently, we might be able to more efficiently use that space and then free up some space down here for other things. So,
It could be cleaned up and organized up there, that we could have a lot of more office. What?
How much space is up there?
We'll have to go up and see. It's
Yeah.
a ton of
I mean,
stuff.
can you stand up there?
oh yeah,
You
oh there's a
walk
lot
all
of
over the
room up
place.
there.
It's a full
Oh,
room.
for heaven's
Really?
sakes.
Yeah.
As
It's
wide
very
as they-
deceiving from the look of the
Yeah,
building outside.
but it
You
is.
think that.
If we got space we're using for storage down here, and we need
Yeah.
office space, this
Right.
is crazy.
And
Right.
And all we gotta do is get a
Chris
way to
can
get it
take
up
you
there.
guys up if you want.
Didn't even know
We can
that.
only go so many at a time, otherwise it's a meeting.
Yeah.
So,
And you know, it's double jeopardy if it's a hidden meeting like that.
yeah. So, but if you guys want to go up and look it
People living
over.
up there?
That's where I stay.
Okay.
I'm homeless, I didn't want to tell you.
All right. Is it warm up there this time of year?
But that's just something that,
It's cool in
you
the
know,
winter
there's
time.
nothing in the budget for it, we're
just.
just looking at different possibilities as to better efficiently use the building,
Yeah.
so.
I mean, I'm not saying this is the company should do it, but it's just a start I saw, and they said they had ideas, and I said, fine, let's look it over and show you what we need. And I would assume we'd have several companies do that before we ever settle on any one. But I just took the opportunity to make a call on a telephone number on a lift.
Good deal.
It's the way to start, I thought, so.
That's right.
If you want to go up and
Even
take a
know there
look
was
at it, why
so
don't we
much
do that anyway, as far as the group?
Well, you've already seen it, I've already seen it. If they want to
there a
go after
ladder
the
you get
meeting.
up
You don't take my word for anything, you better go up there.
No, you'll lock me up there. I know how you are. Go on up, Sherry.
He's sure trying to get you up there.
Uh-huh.
There's a spot where you can always jump down.
Yeah, you break 2 or 3 legs though doing it, but it's all right.
All right, policy for county board room. So, I just briefly tried to come up with some stuff since it came up.
So why did this come up? Give us the background on this.
Okay. Basically, it was a miscommunication as far as what I know. It actually started with a conversation between Eric and John. And what was that conversation? I'll let you get a first-hand thought.
Well, let me back it up to, I had the Democratic Committee at the 911 Center, and they were asking if I would be able to let them in the door because it was after hours. They had a 7 p.m. meeting. Part of the miscommunication was the scheduling of that meeting. When you look at the actual form itself, it said June 5th, was it? And it was actually May the 24th. Originally, I had said okay, because apparently my predecessor had allowed it beforehand. I kind of ground on it a little bit, and I'm just going from a security aspect of the building. I wanted to go back to, I asked John, what would you like me to do in this circumstance? And I had then referred the Democratic Committee over to John at that point because I felt it was a building security question. Nothing against the Democratic Committee or anyone else, but anytime we open these doors, there's a possibility that somebody with less than the best of intentions could potentially come into the building.
And so then,
So aren't they scheduled the same time every month?
but this was a change, right?
Right.
Yeah. And so that's where the miscommunication came.
And when had the change been scheduled?
Excuse me, it was scheduled the day before, Wednesday the 23rd, we scheduled to,
So it's basically a one-day notice on it, which,
which is an issue,
yeah.
clearly.
And when John, from what I understand, actually found out about it when a radio station contacted him saying, well, why did you lock him out?
That's after.
So, that being said, now we have an issue, and in the past, we've had janitors that work till 7 o'clock that were able to open the building, things like that. They do not work that late now. There have been employees that have stayed and opened the building. In our discussion at Policy and Procedure, some of the department heads said they really weren't comfortable with their employees having that responsibility because they are just an employee, they are not a department head or anything else. And so I guess that's pretty much the background that I know. So,
Okay, so let me wrap my mind around this. So the meeting was rescheduled the day before,
yes.
and who was it rescheduled through?
The clerk's office schedules the room, but all they do is reserve the room.
Okay.
They do not get somebody to open, yeah.
Okay,
All they
but
do
it
is,
was scheduled through you just like it was supposed to be done.
Yeah.
I'm just trying to wrap my mind around this.
but That's all they do, they don't make sure the doors are open or nothing. All they do is make sure 3 people don't want to use the room at the same time.
So who does? I mean, how do you get that where?
It's always been up to whoever reserves the room to make sure they're able to get in.
Okay, so then their protocol has always been that they go through the 911 center to get in?
No, it's just recently that, well, when did we go to not having a janitor here till 7 o'clock, Chris?
Sorry, I was reading this.
Oh.
We work with them, that's gonna be.
When did we switch from having a janitor working till 7 o'clock?
That was when Deanne left us, which was
Stupid puzzle, I heard it before.
last August or September.
So for almost a year, they've been going through the 911 center?
No, this was a one-off situation
This is
since I've been here since
See?
September.
Sherry, then they had someone from my office that was willing to do it, but they changed their meeting times a couple of times without letting her know, and so then she was frustrated and she said she was no longer willing to do it. So they had somebody, that would open it for them, and then lost that person.
Okay,
Because it was somebody that was in Watsika,
okay,
that lived in Watsika.
okay. So then, let's just take like the last 3 months. How have they gotten in for like the last 3 months?
I don't know.
They had someone from
People. I'm not, actually not sure
Jody.
who that person is.
Jody was doing it.
for 2
Jody.
months, and then just this last time.
Ran over
Because of the
medicine,
change.
says
So that was a one-time thing?
I don't
One-time
know
thing.
who
Yeah.
specific person it was.
Yeah.
But it
it's
is a
gonna be a
one-time
problem.
thing.
It is gonna be
The
a
problem
problem.
is,
That's not something that I've been made aware of.
it's a one-time thing that became a political issue that actually, if it was a political issue with us, that's one thing. But it's a political issue that's now throwing employees into it, and we
No.
don't want the
No,
employees to be.
and that's not necessary, but I'm looking at it, taking it all in, trying to decipher this. When anybody has let them in the building, have they stayed in the building? Or they just unlock the door and then come back and lock the door? How's that work?
I can sort of answer that.
Okay.
Well, when you Allen wrench the doors open, you
Right.
can, people can,
Lock it when they leave.
It'll lock
it
it
doesn't have to
immediately.
just lock,
No.
so.
It just locks.
Once you leave,
Push handle and you go out.
So, but it's not unlocked so anybody else could attend the meeting? That's what I'm asking.
everybody has to come in at the same time, or somebody stands at
Or
the
leave
door
the
and lets
trash
everybody
can in
You
front of
can't get back in.
Right.
Okay.
It's one of those kind of,
the thing.
So once everybody's gone and the door,
Like at the high school gym or something.
closes.
Okay, yeah,
Yeah.
all about that, I got that. Okay.
So this was a one-time miscommunication.
Yes. But,
Presumably.
but at policy and procedure, there were department heads that said that they really weren't comfortable, even if one of their employees volunteered to stay and do it or whatever, they're not comfortable with an employee having that responsibility.
But they were comfortable with it for a few months
No,
before that?
no.
Well, it wasn't brought up then,
Well-
so kind of poor timing. And
Well-
security issue might be a little broad on the
Well-
whole reason for
Well,
it.
there's a little bit more, Sherry, because the employee that was letting them in was my employee, but now she works in the assessment office. I didn't have a problem with her coming back, but Bob doesn't want her to.
Okay, well,
But
see,
anyway,
more to the
even if
puzzle.
Bob wanted her to, she's not gonna do it anymore anyway. So, there's nobody, that's the dilemma. There, really, at this time, there's nobody that's willing to stay 2.5 hours after the office is closed or come back at 7 o'clock to open the building for anyone, not just the Democrats,
Oh,
but for any.
It's
So, my question would be, how often are there night meetings here? Is it just the Democrats?
And the Republicans.
Is there anybody that, like, have
Can you
a
not switch
key
the
to get
janitor
in?
around to be here later?
I didn't hear
Is
you.
there anyone that has a key that can get in, that has a meeting?
Again,
How do we get
Well,
in?
later.
John has a key.
Right, okay.
A whole nother bag of worms.
And there are limited keys. I mean, I was offered a key as management chairman. I turned it down because I think there should be a limited number of keys.
Don't
It
need
should
a
be,
bunch of people.
because there are security reasons. I mean,
And they can't go through 911, why?
because then that,
The 911 center is really a secure center.
yeah.
Right.
And
There
it-
is just as the same with the key for the remainder of the building, the 911 center should also be that level of security. They've got any number of HIPAA, other situations. I mean, you could have potentially criminal records that are sitting out that are confidential that somebody really should not, unless approved, be able to lay their eyes on. That goes for almost anybody.
Well, I think they're interfere for when they're on duty too.
Right.
That also has its possibilities, ill intent, but again, somebody would actually have to physically let them in the door. If we ever got to that aspect, I don't feel that anybody that has business with the building would really be that type of issue. But honestly, I would prefer not to let individuals through the 911 center, just for that security standpoint, if for any reason.
And it does then make that employee ultimately responsible if they let somebody in. And we don't really, I mean, just because it's worked in the past, it's,
Well, this is now.
with the way things, what was done.
I understand, timing was just not good on this at all. It looks terrible. I had somebody come into my office on the day after this occurred and asked why I voted to let that happen, and I'm like, what are you talking about? The lockout. I still don't know what you're talking about.
Till the day.
I realize I'm out of order. May I just ask
You may.
one question? I think part of what was at the root of the strong response in the media being contacted was a perception that one person alone made this entire decision. Whether that's legitimate or not is one of my questions. And I see on your proposed, the county chair does play a crucial role in
Well,
this.
that would be in the proposal. As of right now, there is no policy as to who can use this room.
And I appreciate the importance of this. It sounds to me as though it's been a little catch-as-catch-can for quite a few years. Is that correct? Or
Well, whoever can let anybody.
Lucky us, maybe it's, I just want to support the idea of developing a policy.
Yeah.
Totally with you.
Well, I think all this was kind of wound up with the Policy and Procedures Committee saying, wait a minute, we don't have a policy and procedures on this, and who is rightfully occupants of this room and who can really do it, what part of the public can come in, what part cannot. So that's why we wound up kind of ratcheting all the way up to a overall policy to affect the entire public.
Right. And as somebody said to me, technically the way without a policy, somebody could request doing a reception in here and, a wedding reception or something, and we have nothing that says, no, we don't allow that.
The thing of it is, for so many years, it's just been a Republican Party, and that's the only party that I know about outside of government and other occupants of the building using the building. So now suddenly we have a Democrat Party.
And it's not that we
And
want
brought
to
up the
exclude
subject, are
them.
we doing right by having both parties? Or one party would, obviously, it's easy to make a story out of one party was denied.
And I'm sure there was no ill intent.
Because we don't have no policy, and maybe shouldn't have had Republicans in here, even though they were the only party wanting it.
And essentially, if we went with something like the policy that I just put down, it would basically, both would be gone out of here. Yeah, and that's as fair as you can be.
But it's a county building.
Well,
right.
It's a taxpayer-paid building. I don't really feel like we should be refusing. I mean, obviously, who would want to have a wedding reception here? But just me,
We have the ability to make rules, just like a park district can close at a certain time and anything else. We have the ability to determine who can and can't use the facilities, and
on the other hand, we are a public entity in a sense, so we can't deny certain favoritism in our building.
well, that's where a policy would say exactly who we want, and first one is just that, as it has been, the clerk's office reserves it pending availability. Second, meeting room can only be reserved by Iroquois County government entity or by one of the entities renting from Iroquois County. I mean, that should be the main purpose of the room anyway. Now, number 3, county board chairman or management committee may on special occasion allow others to use said room pending availability.
That's too vague.
Well,
For the
and then
others.
it gets more specific underneath it, but, and like I said, this is just a starting point. I'm not going to say we're going to solve this here today, but we have to start someplace as to what we want to do.
And how can you charge? That seems a bit ridiculous as well. I'm sorry, it's a county building.
If an employee has to come back here,
Well, you just said in the other statements you're not going to let an employee do it.
well, if someone has to come back here, you know, even if it was John or whatever, you know, are they going to get compensated mileage, or are they just expected to come free, or?
Are we gonna designate keyed holders?
And what about somebody from the sheriff's office opening the door? Is that,
That's public, that's an elected official, and, you know, this does not, you know, this policy in no way, should in no way be interpreted to prevent any elected official or department from using said room or conducting business as long as they reserve the room. And, you know, and if you want specific wording, and the bottom thing, it shall not restrict the maintenance department from allowing access to persons to conduct necessary work. You know, we want to secure the building without interfering with the workings of the building.
I guess I'm a bit confused as to why we're creating a policy after we set a precedent.
We're changing a precedent.
Exactly.
The precedent was what Republicans could always come in here.
Well,
And
the
the
precedent
Democrats
was that they
We're always coming in
could.
here
It
too.
so happened
Well-
they were doing it too.
Right, exactly. And now we're changing, now we're going to create a
There's
policy.
nobody here that night anymore.
Yeah, that's the
Yeah.
problem.
That's the problem.
But there hasn't been since
Circumstances have
August.
changed.
Well, that's why they've been slipping through somebody
Well,
else to
You're
get
up
it.
in the roof again, aren't you?
I'm gonna put you in the attic, I'm gonna keep you there, I'll tell you that.
See, I knew it.
It's basically over the last couple months,
Right.
the conditions in the building have evolved to where people that were willing to do it aren't willing to do it. Employees that were here are no longer here. So that
So this has been an ongoing problem that we're just finding out about when it rears its ugly
it's
head.
been a
Again.
developing problem.
It's a job, yeah, exactly.
And it wasn't a problem until the miscommunication. But, you know, once it happens, then we have to deal with it.
So what are you asking us for on this policy?
At this point, look it over. We don't have to act on it today, but
It's a good thing.
no.
Has this been discussed with Divine?
Yes,
He was at
it's
policy and
policy
procedure.
Did he say anything about creating one himself, or that's where I'm going with that?
I don't
I don't
recall
remember.
if he said anything like that.
I
But he
mean,
did say there's some question about running political organizations in and out of here. We got to let them all in if we're gonna let one.
well, yeah, I guess he did say that about, you know, if you have the Democrats and the Republicans, if the communists want to come in, if this one wants to come
Green
in,
Party and
you know, if you
Yeah.
want the neo-Nazis would have to be allowed in, whoever.
All right.
Yeah.
since it's a community building.
Right.
Taxpayer building.
You can have your,
Just because
Fourth of
it's a
July picnic.
taxpayer-funded building, though, I don't think that means that your county boardroom is available to anyone. I mean, maybe that's a Jim Devine question, but
Yeah.
this is your county board's meeting room. And after hours, you think because taxpayers pay, you know, for the building, anybody should be allowed to come in and have Boy Scouts,
No.
let's see, you know, think of other things, like you said, wedding reception,
No.
No, but I could see how a taxpayer could say, well, you see both sides of that coin.
how they could say it, yeah, but I'm not sure.
There's enough legal restrictions at enough other public government
Yeah.
buildings that I think we're not off track and, you know, saying who.
Well, I'll give you that there should probably be a policy in place. I just think that it's the whole
we're gonna put
precedent
you
policy.
upstairs.
I know.
Keep
I
on.
know.
I
Anyway,
like this.
perhaps we
Ms.
should
Johnson
vote.
here, be in charge of all our activities in after hours.
Well, It's my understanding that in the past, there had been a few other organizations that had used it besides the Republican and Democratic parties, but they have since found other places on their own. And so, you know, to me, to protect the employees from any scrutiny, the best thing is to just use it for the government. And if there is an occasion, and I've got in there, I think I got in there, if say for instance Gilman was remodeling their meeting room and something and needed a place, I think there's a provision that on a single occasion they could use the room, something like that. But for now, look it over. Welcome any suggestions. We want to keep it simple. So, if at all possible, if we can keep it to one page, that'd be great. If there's nothing further on that, county farm issues, as far as I know, there are none. Discuss solar opportunities. It was sent back to us to do that. I guess I'm not sure where we are with that.
Chad had said he was going to talk to the renters for the county farm, or...
He did not mention anything when he called me and told me he wasn't going to be here, so I do not know where he is with that.
Okay. Did you happen to follow up with them on your own, or did we just leave it with Chad to do?
Chad said he was going to do it, so I just assumed he was...
Okay.
So...
Was that just last month or the month before the gentleman was here to talk about the solar?
That was just last month.
I really feel like we need to move with this because, I mean, I don't know if you've been listening to Kankakee. They're very hot to trot and want to be the solar farm capital of the Midwest.
Be here again today or something.
It might have been a little vague for him too.
Yeah.
But, I mean, we can't not look at this revenue, and we can't not look at what they don't destroy, because they put everything back, and it's so much less intrusive than what the wind farms do.
Well, I guess the thing we would need to vote on then is to put it out for bid, because it's a big enough dollar amount that we'd have to have it bid, even though there is only one company that seems to be interested at this point.
Well, it seemed like that the longer I got the impression the last meeting we had, there was several companies that are now withdrawing them, like they don't need to go any further in their contracts.
Right.
And if we continue to stall,
We're going to
we'll
miss
get less of a contract if we get any.
Right, exactly, Charlie.
And that's where I kind of tried to get them to put it out for bid at the full board meeting, but they wanted us to do it, I guess, so.
Well, I think we definitely need to proceed with that. That would be my motion.
I don't think we should wait another month on some of it, although I had somebody ask me they're going to wind up asking some interesting questions if we don't get it already in place.
Well, we have the ordinance in place, and our
Yeah.
ordinance is very strict. I mean, it's a good ordinance the way it's written. So I really feel like we need to move forward.
That's what the point is. As soon as they get the number of commitments to them, they won't be excited about getting any more.
We don't want to miss the boat.
Well, we'll entertain a motion.
So moved that we get
Put
this
it
out for bid. Yes.
Okay. Is there a second?
Yeah, but we'd actually done that. We haven't.
Hey, upstairs.
You're going to get it there, all right. There's no soft bedding up there for you either. No running water.
Okay. So Barron's,
Yes.
Alt,
Yes.
Johnson.
Yes.
And Awful. No.
Has everybody had a chance to look at the claims?
Where are they?
I didn't get any, I only got these.
They're in your file somewhere.
No, they're here. I was gonna say,
I
I
didn't
didn't have
realize
any.
that they're not claims.
Sorry,
Well, you're
everyone.
claiming it, claiming it, for others. You're claiming it, claiming it.
They're not there.
I need this one of yours, buddy, let them know.
Okay.
What do we weld inside the jail?
I bought on the whole second level, we welded up 4x8 sheets of expanded steel, like the steel mesh, to keep inmates from reaching through, from making things to open the windows, to all sorts of things. The whole first level of the jail, that was done years ago, and it's been that way for a long time. Well, upstairs, it's never been done, and I guess it's been in the works for years to hopefully get that done, and the budget allowed for that right now, so.
Okay.
Motion to pay the claims.
Second.
Alt,
Yes.
Johnson,
Yes.
Awful,
Yes.
and Bernie.
Yes. Is there any old business?
I have one question. So the gentleman that came in that was going to look through all of our old utility bills and all of that kind of stuff, where is that at?
That gentleman, in order to do, that
We
was
had to
part
do
of the project.
Part of that, okay.
Okay.
I thought he'd already started it though, prior to all of that.
No, because he was waiting on a contract from Jim Devine, and basically that is the same as this. He was notified the same as everybody else.
I know he sent a contract and
Right.
Divine wanted something changed and it was supposed to be taken care of.
And,
We don't
well,
know?
Well,
and,
not to interrupt you, I almost wonder if he gracefully bowed out
yeah,
Okay.
everything, which I kind of get that impression, because he was calling me a lot, texting me a lot, emailing me multiple times weekly, and then it's like he's dropped off basically.
Okay, so
Not
it's
just
just,
recently, this was a couple months ago at least, that it
so it's
just,
kind of off the table.
yeah.
right. And as a part of the statutory requirements to do these projects, they had to come for the mandatory walkthrough, submit this.
Yeah.
These are the only two that did that, so everybody else basically said, no thank you.
Okay. I just wanted to be sure where we were at with all that.
Yeah.
I remember we paid for our mowing contract, third payment. Is everybody better, more satisfied with the lawns at this time they were a month ago?
A month ago was awful.
I think there was a problem there with a lot of corn stalks that was blowing onto the,
Well, we have to remember, we voted not to spray, and that becomes an issue with weeds popping up the next day after you mow.
Well, that was probably a week's
Yeah.
worth of weeds growing.
It looked like it needed mowed at the
Well,
same time. At our last board meeting, it was very rough looking.
Well,
out
I
there.
did call him, and I think his scheduled day for mowing was Wednesday, so the day after the meeting.
Man, if I was going to mow it, I'd mow it
That's
before the
right.
full board
He
meeting.
did come to death, and
Yeah. And,
he apologized.
yes, I believe that is what his plan is to do
That'd
now.
probably be a good plan.
He's been
Yeah.
on it since then.
A real good plan.
So, all right, no other old business, is there any new business? If not, I'll entertain a motion.
So move.
Charlie seconds. All in favor of adjourn?
Aye.
All
you
opposed?
can't go, you gotta
We are
go
adjourned.
upstairs.
If you want to run upstairs real quick,
No, I don't.
okay.
Well, you didn't believe me when I
I
said
believe in you. I'm all over the believe in you.
so scared of me.